Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Ethanol Producer Magazine's 2017 Editorial Outlook. My name is Tom Bryan, and I'm Editor-in-Chief of Ethanol Producer Magazine, and I'm thrilled to be co-hosting today's 30-minute webinar with BBI International Marketing and Sales Director John Nelson. We'll try to keep this to 30 minutes or so. We know you're all busy. Before I begin, I wanted to say a few words about our magazine for those of you who don't know a whole lot about it. Most of you do. Ethanol Producer Magazine has, as you can see on the screen, been around for 21 years now. We started as a newsletter for the industry and turned into a full magazine back about 14 years ago and have been operating strong ever since. Just recently we decided to launch a new campaign, a new slogan, if you will, called We Are Ethanol, and that slogan really represents how we feel about our magazine and its place in this industry. We feel like people look to us for all things ethanol, from the print magazine, the online products, the webinars, and the events. We think about ethanol, we report on ethanol, and we really hope the industry sees our magazine as the ethanol media brand to look for on a daily basis. I'm going to quickly mention our sponsor today, which is the FEW, the International Fuel Ethanol Workshop and Expo. The FEW is the largest, longest-running ethanol conference in the world. Most of you are familiar with it. Next year's show in 2017 is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is one of our most frequent and popular locations for the FEW. We're gearing up for it already, even though it's 7 months away. The crowd in Minneapolis should be a large one. We're expecting 2,000 plus people. Over 450 of those attendees will be ethanol producers themselves, representing 90% of U.S. ethanol production or more. It's truly a must-attend event for everyone in the ethanol industry, and we hope to see you there. I want to note that we are accepting speaker abstracts already, so if you're interested in becoming a presenter at the 2017 FEW, now's the time to submit your idea. Just go to our website, www.fuelethanolworkshop.com, and post your abstract today. And with that, we'll get underway. John has asked me to say a few quick words about the state of the industry. I think I'll focus that on policy. So, but before we do, just want to say a few quick words about what we're going to talk about in this webinar. We're going to give you a rundown on our audience, our circulation, our online traffic, our popular webinar series, and our 2017 editorial themes or highlights. And we'll wrap with an exclusive advertising discount offer for new advertisers listening on today's webinar. So please stick around until the end for that offer. The idea today is that by giving you a better idea of what we're planning for 2017, you'll be able to optimize your own marketing for the coming year, syncing up your ads with editorial content that helps amplify and draw attention to your company's products and services. In turn, our editors are looking to you, the companies that help this industry run, for ideas, interviews, technical articles, and columns that will enable us to bring all of these themes to life. So let me just start with a few words about where things stand with the industry and the renewable fuel standards. Some of you followed the RFS policy closer than I do, and some of you don't have a lot of time to keep up to date, but here's where we're at. The EPA delivered its proposed rule on the 2017 RVOs to the White House OMB about a week ago, and that's considered the final step before the rule is issued. So the deadline for issuing the final rule is November 30th, and most industry observers think the EPA will unveil the rule after the election but before the deadline. And so I wouldn't argue with that. I think that timing sounds about right. And it's our understanding that the proposed rule that we've all seen is ostensibly what we'll get, 18.8 roughly billion gallons of blending overall, with 14.8, hopefully more, billion gallons of that being conventional biofuels or grain ethanol. Our trade associations are, of course, not entirely satisfied with that number, and they shouldn't be. It's their job to make sure the RFS stays on track, and we're far behind Congress's prescribed vision for that it had in 2007 for the renewable fuel standard. But from a business standpoint, the RFS blending volumes for next year gives producers some runway, some elbow room in the marketplace with that 18.8 billion gallon biofuels blending requirement and just under 15 billion gallons of conventional ethanol, and also the potential for hundreds of millions of gallons of cellulosic ethanol to be produced. So the bottom line is that next year's RVO levels will allow total renewable fuel volumes to increase by about 700 million gallons, potentially. So we see this as a glass half full situation and a huge, still historic moment for the advanced biofuel sector to prove that supply is available between now and 2022. On top of that, we're going to see a record corn harvest, 15 billion bushels or so, low corn prices, near record exports of ethanol and distillers grains, 900 million gallons and 12 million metric tons respectively, against the backdrop of a steadily expanding market for E15. Gasoline supply to the U.S. market just last week contained 10.4% ethanol. That's nationwide average. So, that's according to the EIA. And so more and more we're seeing the ethanol blend rate top 10%, which proves essentially that the blend wall is a fallacy, and proposals to cap ethanol below 10%. The proposal that's been out there has been 9.7% by the API. Those proposals, in Bob Dineen's words, are completely out of touch with what is really happening in the marketplace. As all of you know, ethanol producers understand all of this. We have some of the most knowledgeable and politically active producers in all of industry. They've got great confidence in the future of the American ethanol industry, and it's why they're continuing to make big investments in equipment and technologies and services that your companies offer. And with that, I am going to now hand it over to our Marketing and Sales Director, John Nelson, who's going to take a closer look at our publication, its associated websites, and its ancillary products. John, take it away.
Great, thank you, Tom. So, Ethanol Producer Magazine has been producing content for 21 years. It's been the most relied source for ethanol news within the industry. And what I really want to look at here is that circulation, the subscriber base, and who reads Ethanol Producer Magazine. So throughout those 21 years, we have produced lists, produced following, produced readership, and that's really what we're going to talk about today. We do have the print magazine where you can purchase advertising. We have online advertising. We have the e-newsletter. We have our maps, our spring and fall edition, our ethanol plant maps, where you can purchase advertising. We also have our directories, where you can get your free listing. In addition to your free listing, you can also purchase advertising within our ethanol industry directory. And we also have webinars. So that's another product that we can discuss in greater detail with you. If you have any questions regarding those or want more information on some of these ancillary products, you can contact us or contact your specific account manager. So what I'm going to focus on today, just to keep things moving here, is I'm going to focus on our circulation with our print magazine and talk a little bit about our online online visitor base. So this slide that's in front of you right now represents our print subscribers and our print circulation. So our audience profile kind of breaks down on a monthly basis. We know that we reach about 17,000 people. Now that sounds like a lot. If you look at it, our circulation, we send out 5,000 magazines every month. Well, we know from a third-party vendor where we've utilized research that each publication that goes out is read 3.4 times. So 3.4 people are reading each magazine that goes out. So that's where we get the 17,000 total audience. We're in 36 countries on our print magazine, and there are 941 ethanol producers that are subscribed to our publication. So if you look at our subscriber base, you can see kind of our breakdown. The majority of our readership on our subscribers is our producers, biofuels, biorefineries, the future and existing producers. Next, we have equipment and services. We have farmers, co-ops, consulting, and so on. And then we also have, and this is something to note, so our print publication, on our print publication, 95% of our readers are within the United States. Now, you're going to see on a slide coming up here that it's a little bit different when you're looking at who's visiting our online online stories in our website. So that's going to shift a little bit. So when you're thinking about who you want to target, how you want to target, what audience you want to go for, it's something to keep in mind. And then we also have on here who advertises in Ethanol Producer Magazine. And the majority of people who are advertising are equipment suppliers and professional services, and then you can kind of read who's following after that. Process additives, engineering, construction, and so on. So these are the people that are trying to reach ethanol producers, influence their purchasing decisions, and just build their brand with the ethanol industry and that audience. This next slide that's up is we had, from our third-party research, when we surveyed our readers, we had a top 7 things to know that kind of came out of that. Well, for the sake of time, I dropped it down to 4 for this slide. If you do want additional information, you can see all of this information in our media kit. But 71% of our readers are involved in recommending, initiating, or purchasing products or services, which I find interesting. And then 72% of our readers actually took an action when they saw an advertisement inside Ethanol Producer Magazine. They either discussed it, went to a website, recommended, made a purchase. So your advertisements in Ethanol Producer Magazine are being read, they are being seen, and people are talking about it. So if this is an avenue you want to go after, this is the perfect place to put your advertisement. And then print versus digital. Put this in here just to show that 48% of our readers prefer print advertising as opposed to 26% prefer digital. Now you're going, well, where's the rest of it? The other 26 is they prefer both print and digital. So we're looking at this from a standpoint of if you're trying to figure out, do I go digital, do I go print? Well, just know that the majority of our audience is still within that print category, and that's where they like to read their stories and get their information about ethanol. Then last, this point, 65% of ethanol producer readers agree that advertisements educate and are an important part of the publication. I don't know, Tom may have some words about this, but people are reading this. In addition to the outstanding content that's being produced, people are reading Ethanol Producer Magazine to see these advertisements as well. So again, your advertisement will be read. So now we're going to take a quick glance at ethanolproducer.com. So if you're looking at advertising on our website, this is a great avenue for you if you're looking to track the effectiveness of your online ads, see, and kind of monitor who is visiting your website based on linking through our website. So the majority of our visitors are in the U.S. 34%, however, are outside the U.S. Canada is a large portion of that. UK, you can see India is actually is our second largest source, our country of source of visitors coming to Ethanol Producer Magazine. So again, something to think about. We can get into greater detail within our media kit. You can ask your account manager for more specifics. These are coming straight from Google Analytics. And so if you do have more questions on the traffic, the audience, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to answer any questions you have. Last, I'm going to leave you with a couple quotes that came out of our third-party research. We were happy that our readers were saying this about us. So I'm going to leave you with that, and thanks for taking the time for being on today's webinar. Again, we hope you'll choose Ethanol Producer Magazine as an advertising platform to reach the ethanol industry in 2017. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Tom.
Okay, thanks, John. And for the record, I take no offense to the fact that people look at ads sometimes before they even look at editorial content. I do the same thing sometimes. It's impressive, not just how many people read our magazine and our website, but who we reach and how long producers spend with the magazine, and the large percentage of them that say advertisements in the publication influence their buying decisions. That's impressive stuff. Before we look at our 2017 themes, I need to give credit to the people who make our magazine a reality. It's quite a list of folks that work on our publication, both directly and indirectly. And I want to start with just our editors, our reporters, and our designers: Sue Rekashill, Ann Bailey, and Aaron Vogley in editorial, and Raquel Bushy and Jackie Satterland on design. We've got one of the best trade journal teams we could possibly ask for. We also have a great editorial board. Our magazine works with, every month, we have input, feedback, meetings with our editorial board, which includes GMs and CEOs of at least 7 different ethanol plants. So we rely heavily on their thought, on their opinions, and we appreciate it very much. I also want to mention that our magazine is very lucky to have columns from the Renewable Fuels Association, Growth Energy, the American Coalition for Ethanol, Renewable Industries Canada, and the Urban Air Initiative, and other groups. So we've got a great group of contributing writers that give us columns each month. We also have technical articles. Companies like yours contribute with technical articles in our magazine every month, and I ask you to please keep doing that. Contact Sue Rekashill and let her know if you've got an idea for an article you want to write for our magazine. Please let us know. And now we'll move right into our 2017 editorial highlights. This is where we walk through the themes for the coming year. We're excited about the subjects that we're going to tackle here in the coming months, and we've already begun. The team is already working on the January issue. You know, I'll say our themes, we've got 2 themes for each month of the year. We've got a principal theme and sort of a secondary theme. Sometimes those 2 themes are related, other times they're not. But in each case, our goal is to produce great content for the people that work in ethanol plants: GMs, plant managers, plant engineers, maintenance managers, lab managers, commodities, EH&S. Everyone who works in the plant should find something interesting about our magazine each and every month. As well, try to take notice to this. We try to sync up our themes with industry events. So if there's a financial conference, we try to produce financial conference, financial information in the theme of that month. If there's a lab conference, we try to sync it up with the theme of that month. It's not always possible, but we do try to accomplish that. And let's move right into January. So with January, we're going to do a 2017 CEO outlook. Every couple of years, we do these perspectives from CEOs. We're also going to be covering risk management, margins, and RINs in this particular issue, which will be distributed at the 2017 Iowa Renewable Fuel Summit and the Energy Generation Conference as well. Our editors, as I said earlier, are actually working on this issue right now. We made a decision this year to focus this magazine on the perspectives of plant GMs and CEOs, so people that work at ethanol plants largely this year is going to be our focus. Getting their take on the coming year, where they see the industry headed, trends, perspectives, and so forth. I think it's going to be a very insightful set of interviews. We'll also be sharing the results in this issue, the results of a producer survey that we're conducting this month, in which we asked producers a wide variety of questions, and that too should yield some compelling editorial fodder. Also, Sue Rekashill is, I believe right now, working on a piece about risk and margin management that is largely based on perspectives from speakers at the Biofuels Financial Conference, which recently wrapped in Minneapolis. So all of that should make for a very strong start of our editorial season in 2017. Moving on to February. February is our policy issue. Plus, we're going to tackle water treatment and efficiency, 2 subjects that are probably unrelated. Sometimes our themes will be sort of indirectly related or not related at all. This particular issue will be distributed at the National Ethanol Conference and also the Growth Energy Executive Leadership Conference. So we'll go to those 2 big industry policy and markets events of the winter. It'll also be distributed at the Cooling Tower Institute annual conference, and that's kind of the connection to water. And in fact, water treatment, and really all things water, is a very important subject to the industry, both to producers and so many of you service providers that work in the field of water in the industry, whether it's cooling technology, energy use, water treatment chemistries, wastewater management, or the overall efficiency of using water. There's so many topics that we can consider in this in the water arena. And so if you're a company that works in that field, get in touch with us now as we start to plan that February issue. We'd be happy to work with you. March. March is our markets issue. That's a pretty broad subject. We're also going to cover equipment reconditioning and after service, a very specific topic. March is mailed to all of the folks who attend the National Ethanol Conference, which is a crowd that's highly interested in markets. This March issue is probably not going to be about exports, because we have an issue later in the year that will be dedicated to that subject. So this issue will be largely dedicated to domestic or U.S. markets, and by that we principally mean E15, the implementation of E15, mid-level blends, and also E85. So we'll look at how those markets are evolving and developing. I mentioned earlier that that we're breaking that 10% mark nationally with ethanol blending on a regular basis. We think the story this spring will be how far we can take that momentum in 2017. Retailers are a big part of the story, and you can expect to see the perspectives of retailers show up in this issue. And so, as I said, we'll also tackle equipment reconditioning and after service in this March issue. It's another very interesting topic. It's one that's been around for a long time. Ethanol plants have long relied on the specialty services of companies that rebuild and recondition equipment, whether it be centrifuges or pumps or heat exchangers. And it's often not a matter of producers being unable to do that sort of work, but not having the time to make it happen. So it's a story we look forward to telling. Moving on to April. In April, we're conducting, well, before April, we'll have conducted a salary survey, and the results will be published in the April issue. This compensation and job satisfaction survey it's only done every couple of years, but it's one of the most popular editorial items we do. It's highly read. It's highly popular with production personnel, of course, and it's the type of story that has a lot of shelf life. Anytime you can label something as a reference story, which this is, you've not only done something worthwhile from an editorial point of view, but you've created a unique opportunity for advertisers as well. This is something that producers will keep on their desks, pass it around, they talk about it, and so it's a good opportunity to get your company noticed. The salary survey is a huge project for us. It's a lot of work, but it's something we look forward to tackling this spring. We're also going to cover power and thermal in this issue, which is a very good fit because this April issue goes to the International Biomass Conference and Expo, the largest biomass conference in North America. And it's an event that is attended by a lot of folks who work in power generation. So it's a good fit for that power and thermal subject. Let's move on to May. The May issue is co-products. Again, very broad. We left ourselves a lot of wiggle room on what to cover with just saying co-products. It is distributed to all of, to the International Fuel Ethanol Workshop and Expo hotel room drop. That means that we produce this May issue ahead of the conference, and then all of the people that attend the FEW will get this magazine delivered to their hotel room typically as the event gets underway. So it's a nice distribution. It will also be distributed at the American Oil Chemists Society annual meeting and the Distillers Grains Technology Conference annual meeting. As most of you know, the world of distillers grains and co-products in general keeps changing, evolving. This industry has a funny way of proving you wrong when you think you know everything about distillers grains. Just the other day I came to work and read an article that our associate editor Ann Bailey posted from Detroit. She was there covering the Exports Exchange Conference, and she had listened to a speaker and wrote a story about University of Minnesota's Jerry Sherson, who spoke to the crowd about something that's relatively uncelebrated about distillers grains, and that's its environmental benefits. Jerry talked about the fact that feeding DDGS to dairy cows reduces methane emissions, that feeding distillers grains to pigs reduces sulfide and ammonia in the environment, and that because DDGs have the highest phosphorus digestibility of any feed on the planet, its use helps keep phosphorus out of rivers and streams. So he talked about that sort of largely unheralded environmental benefit of distillers grains usage, and that's the kind of story that we love to tell. You know, we like digging into the science, these new discoveries, new findings, new equipment, technology, markets. The world of distillers grains is pretty big, and of course it's not just DDGs, but it's also corn oil and other byproducts of production. So not sure exactly where we're going to take this, but we look forward to tackling co-products in May. And we're also going to cover ethanol as a chemical intermediate that got into the lineup, and I'm glad it did. It's a fascinating topic. A lot of people are talking about these sort of disruptive new technologies that might use ethanol as a feedstock to produce hydrocarbons, renewable hydrogen, or other chemical intermediates. So we look forward to digging into that. Let's move on to June. June is our People in Ethanol issue. Plus, we're going to cover research and development, R&D. June is, of course, the month that we hold the International Fuel Ethanol Workshop and Expo. Again, largest ethanol conference in the world. This is the magazine that goes to it. It's a great issue to be in. And it's a great issue to celebrate people. The FEW is, in so many ways, a gathering of ethanol industry friends and colleagues. People that have been there understand that. So we felt that this year, let's profile people that are making a difference in this industry, and there's a lot of them. The tough decision here will be who to cover, who to profile in this magazine. We'll do our best to cover a lot of different folks that work in different areas of the industry. And along with that, we'll tackle R&D. Again, tough to pick which subject to go after. I think what we're most interested in is perhaps not the R&D that takes place academically or the R&D that's taking place in government-sponsored research labs, but the R&D that's taking place within existing ethanol plants or private businesses or test centers. In fact, most of the real innovation in the ethanol industry today is emerging from existing plants, working hand in hand with companies like yours. So we look forward to that R&D aspect of the June issue as well. I want to mention before moving on that the National Advanced Biofuels Conference and Expo is co-located with the FEW again in 2017. We started that last year, co-locating the two events together in Milwaukee, and we're going to continue that this year in 2017 in Minneapolis. So the magazine, the June issue, will be distributed at both events. July, we're looking at sustainability and plant and yield optimization, two subjects that go pretty much hand in hand. What do we mean by sustainability? That's something that is kind of in the eye of the beholder. Sometimes you can take a lot of different avenues when you talk about sustainability, but I think ultimately the quest for sustainability for ethanol producers is and has been for a long, long time a continuous effort. The industry's come a long ways in terms of increasing yields, ethanol yield, while decreasing the amount of inputs that it uses, water, chemicals, energy, needed to run the plant. So sustainability is, to us, about efficiency, it's about compliance, it's about environmental stewardship, and I think it's also about the quest for cellulosic ethanol and other advanced biofuels. So what you'll find in this issue are stories about getting more from less, working smarter, employing energy reduction technologies. You might find stories about optimizing the use of enzymes and yeasts in this issue, or using data more wisely to run a plant. In the ethanol business, everyone refers to this as maximization or plant optimization, and that's exactly what you'll find in the July issue. Let's move on to August. I've got to keep clipping here if we want to make our time. August is the cellulosic issue. It's also about maintenance and cleaning. I think everyone agrees that while we cover cellulosic ethanol every month in Ethanol Producer Magazine, dedicating one issue a year to the subject is worthwhile. So we're going to do that with this August issue, take a deeper dive into the world of cellulosic ethanol. The cellulosic mission is still very much front and center for our industry, even though we've had some setbacks. Most of you have heard about Abengoa exiting the U.S. ethanol scene and selling off its grain and cellulosic assets. And so there's a lot of unknowns about that Hugoton, Kansas plant. That might show up in this August issue. Shell is purchasing the plant. And so we'll follow up on that facility later in the year and see where things are at, see what Shell is doing with the Abengoa plant. We hope to follow up with Poet and DuPont on their big cellulosic plants. We do that pretty much annually, if not a couple times a year, to let readers know where things stand. We'll do it again. We'll check in with the companies that are pursuing corn fiber to ethanol in this August issue, looking at companies like D3 Max and Quad County and Adinic and Fluid Quip and ICM and all the others that are going after that low-hanging fruit of cellulosic ethanol, corn fiber. So we'll dig into everything we can related to cellulosic in this issue. And we'll also tackle maintenance and cleaning. I think largely we like to check in with the companies that handle the cleaning services, those big scheduled cleaning services. We like to do that annually. It's interesting to work with these companies. I've said this before, but it is truly amazing how just a handful of well-equipped cleaning service companies handle that service for over 200 ethanol plants in America that are all virtually running on the same annual schedules. So it's quite a feat, and we look forward to working with those companies and telling those stories again next summer. That issue, the August issue, is going to be distributed at the American Coalition for Ethanol Conference, the ACE conference. September is our feedstock issue, and we'll be also tackling equipment, storage systems, and innovation. Those are two subjects that go hand in hand. The magazine is distributed at the Big Iron Farm Show, good farm audience. It's also distributed at the Growth Energy Advocacy Conference, the Growth Energy smaller show, as well as the 2017 Energy Conference down in Iowa. So a good distribution for this issue, and I think a good ag-based crowd will have their hands on this particular magazine. We're just calling it our feedstock issue right now. We're not exactly sure what we're going to cover, but typically that means we're going to explore the world of corn and everything related to it. Corn makes up 95% of the feedstock used to make ethanol in the U.S., so it makes sense that most of our coverage is centered there. But we also love catching up with the sorghum folks every year. And so in this issue, you might find articles about corn quality, corn storage, corn science, the economics of farming, really sort of an endless array of topics that we may broach. We just published a couple of great articles on corn quality and corn storage in our October 2016 issue, which is out there now. And so writing about how, this year we wrote about how the industry is dealing with the bin-busting crop, as we called it. And so it'll be interesting to circle back to this issue in 9 or 10 months and see how this year compares to next. October is our finance issue, and we'll also cover lab and quality assurance. It's distributed at the Biofuels Financial Conference and Expo in Minnesota, the conference I mentioned earlier in the webinar. Our company, BBI, is working with Christensen and Associates. We have assisted them in the planning and logistics of their Biofuels Financial Conference, and over 100 people just attended that show, mostly executive leadership, financial and accounting personnel from ethanol plants. And so we're aligning next year's October issue with this growing fall event. And if I had to summarize in a few words what this theme is going to be about, I'd say it mirrors the conference theme itself. It's about how ethanol plants can maximize profitability and ensure future stability. That's the slogan for Christensen's event, and it really is going to mirror what we're going to try to do with this issue that's distributed at the event. The October issue will also make room for lab and quality assurance articles, a subject we cover all the time at Ethanol Producer Magazine. We've had some superb reporting on labs and lab personnel in the past, and we're looking forward to meeting with more lab managers and lab equipment and service providers in the coming year. November is our exports issue and also downstream infrastructure. This is distributed at the FOLIX World Ethanol and Biofuels Conference, and so it's sort of an international event it's an international theme that's headed off to an international event, I should say. I mentioned earlier that exports of both ethanol and distillers grains are at very healthy levels right now. By this time next year, it'll be interesting to see where things stand. We just published an online article from CHS that lays out some of the problems and implications of China's countervailing duty on distillers grains, which amounts to about 44% of the delivered price of the product to buyers there. That's what the article stated. So this is we're seeing some decreases in DDGS flow to China because of this, and in turn that could affect values back home in the United States. So these are the kind of subjects that I saw that article and I thought that's the kind of subject that you'll see covered in the November issue of Ethanol Producer Magazine. But we'll cover both ethanol and distillers grains exports in that issue, and we'll of course delve into the related world of downstream infrastructure for shipping and distributing these products with greater ease and greater efficiency. And finally, December. Innovation is the primary topic, plus regulatory issues and environmental health and safety, or EH&S as it's known. This issue will be mailed to all 2017 Ethanol Producer Magazine webinar attendees, people like yourselves who attend one of our webinars, but for some reason maybe don't get the magazine, will get a copy of Ethanol Producer Magazine before the year is out. So we've got about 800 people on that list right now. Our webinar series has been extremely popular over the last many months, a couple of years really, and the number of people that have attended and that attend regularly our webinars is growing. So we're going to tackle innovation in December. Our planning meeting for this issue is about 10 or 11 months away. We're not sure exactly what we're going to cover. This entire industry was built on innovation, and it continues to be sort of the backbone of ethanol. So whether it's new technology, new practices, new ways of thinking that are, permeating the space, those are the types of subjects that you'll see in this December issue. And a lot of times when we write about innovation, it's related to the sort of organic change that happens inside of an ethanol plant when people working at that plant work hand in hand with service providers like yourselves to overcome some challenge or reach some new level of efficiency that's needed. So we'll also be covering EH&S in December. It's one of our favorite subjects because the folks that work in EH&S, and not to take anything away from any other positions, but they're just very communicative people, it seems, and so it's fun to interview the environmental health and safety managers, and they often provide a lot of insight about every aspect of an ethanol plant. They deal with so much, whether it's environmental compliance, OSHA, the Food Safety Modernization Act, you name it. They're dealing with everything. So it's speaking with these professionals is always insightful, and we look forward to doing that in the run-up to our December issue. So that brings us to the conclusion of the editorial themes. I want to have everyone hold on for just a second because we do have an advertising discount offer that I want to show you before we conclude. I once again want to thank today's sponsor, the FEW. If you haven't already planned to attend the FEW in Minneapolis next June, make plans today. The Expo Hall may in fact sell out. It's going to be a popular show this year in Minnesota. And also a reminder that if you've got a presentation idea, be sure to submit an abstract soon. I also want to give a shout out to our upcoming webinars. We've got a webinar on November 2nd for Biodiesel Magazine's 2017 Editorial Outlook. We've got one on November 16th for Pellet Mill Magazine's 2017 Editorial Outlook. Two presentations that will be much like this, but different subject matter, different magazines. If you're interested in those publications or those industries, please tune in for that. And then on November 17th, we've got kind of back to regular programming. We've got a corn kernel fiber webinar converting the low-hanging fruit, the term I used earlier, webinar on corn fiber to ethanol. So please make sure you sign up for those upcoming webinars. And here's that offer. As we said earlier, we've got a 35% discount on one full page of print advertisement, and this is for new advertisers of Ethanol Producer Magazine. If you've never advertised before with our magazine, you're thinking about it, maybe you've got something that you want to promote that's coming up, maybe you see a theme that's a good fit for your company, please take advantage of this 35% discount. It's a good offer, and it's something that I think we can all say full-page advertisements really do get noticed in the magazine. We've got studies that show that. And as John said earlier, over 70% of producers that we've surveyed say that they make decisions based on ads in the magazine, and they notice those ads. So please consider this offer. And with that, thanks for attending today's 2017 Ethanol Producer Magazine Editorial Outlook. Have a good Friday tomorrow, and have a good weekend. Thanks, everyone.